Good morning, beautiful people. How are we all today? Whew, we got lots to talk about. I don't even know which one I actually want to start with. I don't know which one I want to start with. So, we have a lot to talk about. So, I might start with this one because I just posted a video about it. And, oh gosh, we have a lot to get into today. All right, I keep repeating the same thing over and over. Let me officially start. Good morning, beautiful people. Oh my God, we have so much to talk about today. First, Jerome Powell embarrasses Trump using math. Okay, that's a fun story. Then we got the QAnon Shaman guy who was in January 6th, the guy that was probably like low-key culturally appropriating Native American culture, who was arrested for January 6th and pardoned by Trump, now is turning on Trump. That's an interesting story. Then we also have, if you are familiar with the whole setup Jubilee, I am not a fan of what they do Jubilee-wise for their political content. I don't think it's super helpful. That all being said, there was a guy who went on Jubilee and described himself as a fascist and laughed maniacally, and it was really, really cringeworthy. But apparently he got fired from his job, and he then took to creating a crowdfunding site for it. But there are details coming out about that where he may not have actually been fired recently for that exchange and may have been fired previously. So that's a whole thing. He might actually be using this as an opportunity to grift his own MAGA supporters. Then we also have, we're going to be talking about Jerome Powell, of course. Oh, I mentioned that. What was the other thing? Oh, Bill Clinton. I have a story about Bill Clinton that we're going to talk about. And right-wingers continue to call into right-wing shows to express their disgust over Donald Trump's betrayal regarding the Epstein files. So we have a lot to get to today. I don't know which story we want to start with first, so let me know. Junior Monster, good morning. How many people we got in here? 4? Oh, we got 20. Okay, cool. It went from 4 to 20. Ooh, 420. Good morning, C-Bar. Hello. So we have a lot to get to today. And if you clicked on this video to watch the live stream after it's posted, I just want to say you're my favorite. You're my favorite. Okay, not many people actually watch the streams after they've aired. And I don't know why that is. It's just kind of unfortunate that that's not how it works. But I appreciate every single one of you. You all are amazing. I usually wait for people to scroll in here just for a little bit. Anon Emaus, good morning. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and start with this story here, unless I should do a different one. You know what? Maybe I'll start with... which one do I want to start with? Because I always have so much content to cover when I do these stories. It's actually crazy. I prepare like an hour and a half's worth of coverage to only go, or like, I prepare like an hour and a half's worth of coverage for like 3 hours, and I only end up going live for 30 minutes. Sometimes that's how it works. Let's start off with Jerome Powell. So this, you may have heard about this recently. The 58 of you in here, good morning. All right, let's get into it. Oh, that was a bad tongue pop. Hold on. Sorry, I'm gay. I love a tongue pop. Okay. So, what was this? Wednesday or Thursday? I don't remember what. I think it was maybe Thursday. Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure that it happened yesterday. So, for those people who do not know, Jerome Powell is a guy who is the Federal Reserve chairman. He's the chairman of the Federal Reserve. They do a lot of stuff regarding money, inflation, our economy, all of that. And Donald Trump appointed Jerome Powell back in 2019, I believe. I would have to double check that, okay? So Donald Trump appoints this guy before the 2020 election. So it was Donald Trump that chose this guy. Now, ever since then, he's had this weird animosity towards Jerome Powell. He like constantly is calling him names. You know how Donald Trump comes up with pretty low-key, kind of pretty good nicknames. I can't stand the man, but he comes up with really, really childish but funny nicknames. Sleepy Joe, Crooked Hillary. But like, his nickname for Jerome Powell is Jerome Too Late Powell. Dude, that is not your best work. His childish nicknames have continued to get worse and worse and like less funny, and it's kind of sad. It's like a comedian losing their touch. Anyway, but so there was this exchange that happened, and it was really awkward. Now, I posted a video all about it, so if you want a succinct version to share with friends later on, then please feel free to go and view that video. But let me get into it here. So Trump and Jerome Powell bicker over the cost of federal renovations in painfully awkward exchange. There's 182 of you in here. I love all of you. Let's get into it. So if you want a picture to perfectly encapsulate the exchange here, it was basically Donald Trump lying out of his ass, and Jerome Powell just looks over at him like this. And I put like the caption America right now, because low-key, that's kind of how we're feeling. And again, I posted a video about this. There it is. I posted a video about this, so if you want to go and check that out after the live stream for a succinct version, then let me know. So President Donald Trump and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell bickered over the cost of renovations to the federal headquarters in Washington, D.C. in front of cameras as the two toured the site on Thursday. Okay, yeah, it was Thursday. So for those people who do not know, the Federal Reserve is, you know, the group that controls, you know, the United States' currency. They do a lot with the economy, controlling interest rates, inflation, all of that stuff. And the Federal Reserve is spread out between multiple buildings. And two of those buildings right now are being retrofitted, upgraded. They're being renovated in, you know, some ways, because they're also historic buildings. So they're going through and they have to do it carefully in order to maintain the historical preservation, but then also do it where it has modern updates. Anyway, so you have two buildings that are being retrofitted. Then there's another building that was recently built 5 years ago. That is important. All right, so the squabble comes amidst Trump and Powell's ongoing feud, which is mostly consisted of Donald Trump lambasting Jerome Powell over his job performance, constantly like trying to get under his skin and name call him, and it's super childish. So let me show you how the exchange goes. This is how the exchange goes. So Donald Trump says, okay, hold on, I need my hands. Hold on. All right, so we're taking a look, and it looks like it's going to be about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit. It went up just a tiny bit, or a lot, or it's 2.7, you know, so the 2.7 is now 3.1, and Jerome Powell is like looking at him like, I'm not aware of that. And then Trump goes, yeah, it just came out. Not me. That would be gay. No, it just came out. You know, the document is gay. And Powell goes, yeah, I haven't heard of that. Heard from anybody at the Fed about that. He goes, it just came out. There was also Tim Scott, who's a senator from South Carolina, that was like, yeah, I heard that too. And so the exchange continues, where Donald Trump takes out a piece of paper from his jacket pocket, hands it to Jerome Powell, and Jerome Powell is looking at it. He gets his readers out, you know, glasses, and he's looking at it. And Trump says, yeah, I don't know who does it. I don't know who does that, that being the report. And then Powell looks at it and goes, you're including the Martin renovation. You just added in a third building. That's what that is. That's a third building. And then Trump goes, it's a building that's being built. And then Powell's like, no, it's been built. It was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago. So as a quick little summary of what's happened, basically Donald Trump's, you know, basically Donald Trump in some way modified this document, or I guess they got it wrong because they included a renovation from 5 years ago to be put in the current costs for this existing renovation. Even though they're basically adding up the building from years ago and adding it into this current one. It's really strange. So it then continues where Trump's like, yeah, it's part of the overall work. And then Powell's like, no, it's not. It's not new. And then Trump's like, well, we're going to take a look. We're going to take a look. So basically, just to summarize things, I don't feel like I did a great job summarizing that there. The Federal Reserve is currently spread out between at least 3 buildings that I know of or that I'm aware of. You have the Eccles building. You have the Constitution Avenue building. Those are the 2 that are being renovated right now. They're being renovated. There was money put into it. I can't believe that it's going to be billions of dollars to renovate it. That seems kind of high to me, but I'm not a contractor. But then there's also the Martin building that was built 5 years ago. And so Jerome Powell and Donald Trump, along with Tim Scott yesterday, were touring around one of the buildings that's being retrofitted. And they were talking about the cost of it. Donald Trump says that it's going to be $3.1 billion. Jerome Powell is like, wait, what? Huh? Because he then looks at the paper that Donald Trump gives him and says, yeah, you're including the Martin renovation. That was a building that was built 5 years ago. You're adding in a 3rd building that was already built. Like, no, it's already built. You can't include that in the numbers for the existing renovation. And so, like any right-winger, I went to go and ask questions of Grok, but then also the internet. So I literally just went over and asked Grok. I said, hey, Grok, what is the construction project occurring with the Federal Reserve? Does it include the Martin Building project? Because if you're looking at this situation, you're like, okay, well, who's right here? The Federal Reserve is currently undertaking significant renovation and project, including 2 historic buildings in DC, the Eccles building and the Constitution Avenue building, as I said. The project began in 2021, aiming to modernize these structures to meet accessibility, operational standards. They're going through and getting rid of, lead pipes and contamination, redoing the electrical, plumbing, HVAC, yada, yada, yada. And the cost originally was going to be $1.9 billion in 2019, but then it now has arisen to $2.5 billion due to the unforeseen issues such as higher than expected asbestos levels, soil contamination, and a high water table, etc. Pause. No, I do not support that at all. I'm not. I don't know if SBAMA is trying to do to me, but no, I do not. But I want to make sure, y'all, please make sure to send some likes as I am breaking all of this down. I don't know if you're going to see other breakdowns like this from other people. I am here trying to just give you the information. You can have your own opinions. I'm not here to steer your opinion. I'm here to just give you the information. Cool? Make sure to send some likes. I love all of you. So when asking Grok about this, they said, hey, it was initially foreseen to be $1.9 billion. The cost has arisen to 2.5 because they're having to do they're higher than expected asbestos levels, soil contamination. They're having to redo the HVAC, electrical and plumbing, to retrofit the buildings, to meet the safety standards, etc. And so I'm like, okay. And then when I asked the specific thing within Grok saying, hey, is the Martin building a part of this renovation? The William McChesney Martin Jr. building is not part of the primary renovation project, including the Eccles and Constitution Avenue buildings. So, newsflash, Trump was wrong. That was Brandy? Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. Love you, SBAMA. I've seen you in here several times. Love you. But it's not a part of the current existing renovation. So you have Eccles and the Constitution Avenue buildings that are a part of the Federal Reserve being retrofitted right now. The Martin building was built 5 years ago, and the Trump administration completely blindsides the Federal Reserve within their numbers to then pump up and try to include the building that was built 5 years ago into the current cost for this renovation. Now, if I were to be some conspiratorial right-wing crazy person, I might be like, oh my God, they're adding in all this extra money. Where is it going to go? Whose pocket is it going into? Now, I don't think that that's the case here. I think that Donald Trump is just trying to literally make it seem more expensive so that he can be like, it's more expensive, it's better, it's fantastic, it's incredible. And I'll break that down a little bit further. But basically, When you ask Grok, is this part of the existing renovation? They're like, no, it is not. Recent posts on X and media reports have incorrectly suggested that the Martin building renovation is part of the $2.5 billion project, with some claiming total costs have reached $3.1 billion, including the Martin building. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell clarified during a visit with the President Trump on July 24th, yesterday, that the $3.1 billion figure inaccurately includes the Martin Building project, which was completed 5 years ago and is separate from the current Eccles and Constitution Avenue renovations. So, to answer the big overarching question, no, it is not a part of the existing project, which this whole interaction is a perfect representation, in my view, of literally how America is reacting to everything Trump is doing right now. This interaction is a perfect, that's my opinion, it's a perfect representation of literally what we're all going through. Donald Trump lies out of his ass, makes up figures. He just goes rampant with something. He's corrected on it. He doubles down because he doesn't want to seem like he's wrong, or he doesn't want to seem incorrect. So he doubles down on it, even if it's insane. Meanwhile, objective reality is like flying in the face of his desired vision. And we all have to suffer the consequences of the misinformation. Which in this case, this isn't a big deal. This is not a big deal. This is literally just a small little thing. But the reason I bring this up is because if Donald Trump is so comfortable lying literally about the numbers regarding a budget in buildings, then what else is he lying about? That's the big overall point. The worst person just made a great point. Are you talking about me? I'm simply just pointing out here that, like, within this exchange, if Donald Trump seriously is so desperate to lie, even about budgets in buildings, like, what else is he trying to cover up or lie about? If he's talking, he's lying. Facts. So as a quick little overarching summary here, this is how the exchange goes. It's pretty awkward. I wish I could play the video for you on live, but I can't, because I always do my live streams in my car. The exchange goes like this. So we're taking a look. It's going to be about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit. Again, this is for the renovations. This is for the renovations for the Eccles building and the Constitution Avenue building. These are buildings that house the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the part of the government that oversees our United States dollar currency. They also adjust interest rates, handle inflation, they gauge our economy and the economic health of our nation, etc. The chairman of the Federal Reserve is Jerome Powell, a guy that Donald Trump continues to literally crap on, even though he appointed him back in 2019, which is hilarious because Donald Trump, he's always like, oh, I don't know who appointed him. Dude, you did. Anyway, he came up with the stupidest nickname. His nicknames aren't even funny anymore. He calls him Jerome Too Late Powell. Anyway, but point is, they were going through the facility yesterday, touring it around to see how the renovations are coming along. And while on that tour, they discuss how much the renovations are going to cost. And Donald Trump then says, well, I was looking at it and it's now about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit. Meanwhile, Jerome Powell basically gives him like this face like, what? So obviously he felt blindsided by the fact that that doesn't seem accurate to him. And so Powell goes, I'm not aware of that. And then Trump goes, yeah, it just came out. Let me tell you, it just came out. It's a gay document. And then Powell says, yeah, I haven't heard from anybody at the Fed. And Trump goes, it just came out. And Tim Scott, a Republican senator from South Carolina, also was there. And he was like, yeah, that's what I heard as well. Trump takes out a paper from his pocket and gives it to Powell. And Powell is looking at it. He puts his own little readers on, the little glasses. He's looking at it and goes, this came from us? And Trump goes, yeah, I don't know who does that. Probably some Malaysian woman that has scars on her hands that is working that copy printer. Let me tell you, you know, she probably printed it out, maybe printed it out, you know, I hope it's all accurate, I hope it's fine. That's kind of something that Donald Trump would say. And then Powell goes, wait, you're including the Martin renovation. You just added a third building. That's what this is. That's a third building. Then Trump goes, well, it's a building that's being built. And then Jerome Powell's like, no, it's been built. It was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago. So literally the document that he hands Jerome Powell has a number that is artificially inflated, trying to account for a building that was built 5 years ago. So the Trump administration is trying to take the existing construction project and inflate the number that they are using as their budget of how much it's going to cost for a building that was already built and accounted for. Now, again, if I was a conspiratorial right-winger, someone that decided to just go based on vibes, I might be like, oh my God, they're laundering money. This is crazy. You know, what are they going to do with that money? That's corruption. Well, there's a lot of things it could be, so I'm not going to assume anything. That being said, the one thing we do know is that Jerome Powell was completely blindsided by this and was like, yeah, that's for the Martin building. So when you ask Grok, hey, is the Martin building a part of the current project? It says that it's the Eccles building and Constitution Avenue building, and that no, the Martin building is not a part of that. So it's not a part of the construction project. And like, it's just funny watching this exchange because it just shows that Donald Trump will lie literally about anything. Now, let me get to some of these comments here. Because this is just funny, but then I'm also going to tie this to something from Donald Trump's past that I don't think many people, or I think some people might remember, but I still want to talk about it. Y'all, please make sure to send some likes. I love all of you. If you haven't seen me or, you know, been a part of the live before, my name is Scott. My name is Scott. I'm a former political organizer, and I do these news live streams to inform you about stuff. You don't have to agree with my opinions, but I also just want to give you the raw factual information. So when I was going through and reading some of these comments, Chitty says he pulled out the paper to embarrass Powell, only to end up getting embarrassed on live TV. And this is one of my favorites. This is a meme of Trump basically saying, "Magic 8 Ball, am I stupid?" And then he turns it around. It ends up being a bowling ball. And because of the way that this picture is drawn, it looks like the bowling ball has like the two eyes in the mouth, like that emoji that's like, you know, it's just funny. Hi Scott, first time in your feed. Aw, yay, happy to see you all here. To all the new friends in here, I appreciate all of you. Sometimes the live stream is just littered with angry people trying to say the stupidest things, and it's just like, literally go away, you know, go away. Now, this person said Trump is such an ignacile, and I'm like, what is an ignacile? Basically, it's a combination of the word ignorant and imbecile. And I was like, oh, that's actually a really good way to describe Trump. And so I think I don't know if it's a real word, but it's basically referring to someone who is willfully uninformed and then intellectually lazy, which is so funny that they say that, because I've been talking about certain like right-wingers being intellectually lazy because they don't want to admit that Donald Trump is caught up in the Epstein files. Oh, no, don't fall. I don't, what is that thing the little stand for your phone in the car? Don't fall. But also, it's like they wear their stupidity as a badge of honor. So it's like an ignacile is often caught up in the high paradox of certainty. Absolutely sure of things they know absolutely nothing about. So like, you know those people that are so sure that they know everything and then they actually really don't know anything, but they have such blind confidence in their idea that it's like, That's how it is. Yeah. So someone described Trump in that clip as an Ignisol, and I was like, that makes sense. Trump tried to add a fake building to inflate the Fed's costs. It was built 5 years ago. Real-time fact-check burn. Now, again, to clarify, it's not a fake building. It's a real building, but it was built 5 years ago. So I don't know if that person worded it as well as they could have, but we get the general point. This exchange perfectly captures Trump's relationship with facts. Improvise first, verify never. Powell calmly fact-checking him in real time is the leadership contrast that America needs. When you don't have the truth, just lie and hope that no one pays attention. Facts. Trump doesn't know anything. And this all continues. Watching Trump try to spin his alternative universe and getting called out in real time, priceless. One of the most unprofessional displays that I've seen in front of a camera. The only one that comes close was the ambush on Zelensky. I mean, this was Jerome Powell's face when Donald Trump suggested it was going to be $3.1 billion instead of the actual number, which is 2.5, because he was adding in a building that was built 5 years ago into the cost for the construction. And this is not the first time that Donald Trump has actually artificially inflated the costs of a building. This is not the first time. And that's just a little bit of a hint for the next part of the live that I'm going to be going through. Trump is undeniably stupid. Someone's saying release the Epstein files. This guy says, I freaking love Powell here, and no, I do not support Democrat or Republican. I support humanity, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, okay, that's an interesting comment. This person said Trump is a little clown, not qualified to scrub toilets. The people around them are so inconfident they have to control. What is it? That does scare me, though, that the government is that incompetent. So, that was interesting. Powell just dropped a house on Trump. Imagine if this was Joe Biden. Yeah, truly. Imagine if this was Joe Biden. Put the shoe on the other foot for a second. If Joe Biden looked at it and said that it's $3.1 billion to renovate a part of the federal government, the Federal Reserve, and and Jerome Powell is the Federal Reserve chairman, and said, hey, that doesn't look about right. And Joe Biden then doubles down and says, no, we're going to take a look at it, Jack. Right-wingers would not stop talking about how that's a huge discrepancy. And look, they would be right. That would be something to point out, be like, is there something nefarious behind this? Who knows? You're including another building that wasn't a part of this, that was built 5 years ago. So why are you going out of your way to include that in the cost of your current renovations, even though that was 5 years ago? It's like you're deliberately trying to do something. The right wing would have a field day with conspiracies based on the vibes that they want to act upon instead of the facts that they can acquire to know. You see what I mean? Like, if it was Joe Biden, the right wing wouldn't need any more evidence or anything to just start going wild with conspiracy theories. Now, please don't go wild with conspiracy theories about this. This is not a major thing. But this is just a perfect representation of the current... This is just like current... words. This is just like a perfect representation of how America is reacting to Trump right now. Trump just says a whole bunch of crap and doubles down on it, even when he's been confronted with information showing that he's incorrect. And this is where one of the biggest flaws within our politics, specifically in America, is stubbornness. Just stubbornness. Many people don't want to admit when they are incorrect about something. They don't. Now, if someone fact checks me on something, I deliberately be like, okay, as long as that is verifiably true, then great. I am willing to concede that I was incorrect about something. I'll give you an example. During a live stream where I was talking about gun violence and the need to get guns out of the hands of citizens who are prone to doing violence, like shooting up a school, I said that like an AR-15 I thought that it stood for assault rifle. No. AR stands for Armalite rifle. And someone said, hey, you know, by the way, that's incorrect. And I'm like, really? They go, yeah. And I'm like, okay. Sorry about that. I totally missed that part. And now, of course, I then said that doesn't dismiss anything of what I'm saying regarding like, don't give this both sides do it BS crap. Hope that's not towards me. What I'm specifically saying is that, like, if you are incorrect about something, it's okay to admit you are wrong. But MAGA does not know how to do that. They don't know how to do that. Now, just putting it out there, just putting all of that out there, let me also bring up some past comparisons. Let me bring up some past comparisons with, oh my God, my phone mount keeps falling in my car. Where is it here? Where is it here? I want to bring up some past comparisons regarding Donald Trump lumping in artificially inflating building costs, because he's done this before. In fact, he was actually sued over it. Was that person referring to me as doing excessive both sidesism? Because I don't think that was towards me. Your hair is so nice. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm specifically just pointing out, like, I actually, on that subject really quickly, y'all, please do not feed into excessive both sidesism. Not you? Okay. That's what I thought. Just as a little aside, since that's up in the chat, don't feed into excessive both sidesism. That favors Republicans and gives them a pass on them continuing to double down on their very, very incorrect fringe beliefs. I spelled fascist wrong. And did I spell fascist wrong in my in the title of the live stream? If I did, then it's okay. Then yes, I admit that I did that, of course. But anyway, going back to all of this here. What was also funny in this exchange was this person said, if only Powell had said, did you read that $3.1 billion estimate in the Epstein files along with your name? I would have laughed so hard if he had said something like that. But LOL, Trump tried to inflate the current project with a 5-year-old building, just like he got busted with his 34 felony counts. And I saw that and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let me actually bring that up. So again, in this exchange, Donald Trump is trying to inflate the cost of the renovations for the Eccles and Constitution Avenue buildings by lumping in a building, the Martin building, that was built 5 years ago. 5 years ago. He's trying to include those costs as a part of the current renovation. Now, again, this is not the first time that Donald Trump has artificially inflated the numbers in the books regarding buildings. If you all remember, Donald Trump actually was sued. He was sued for civil fraud regarding artificially inflating the value of his buildings. Do you all remember some of this stuff? It happened in 2024, I believe. So in 2024, Letitia James, the New York City Attorney General, actually prosecuted him and said, hey, you know, I'm noticing that there are some discrepancies on your disclosures regarding your real estate properties. And so the judge, Arthur Engoron, actually did slap a big $1 million like civil fraud fine on Trump and the Trump organization. And it was specifically over Donald Trump actually lying on tax documents about how big his penthouse was. Now you're like, that seems really, really weird and petty. Why does this matter? I'm specifically pointing this out because this is not the first time that Donald Trump has tried to lie about the size of buildings or the value of buildings. And you're like, well, why would you do that? If you say that your building is 3 times the size, then you are artificially inflating the value of it. New York State Attorney General, thank you for that clarification. Yeah, I was like, I don't think it was the New York City General. New York State Attorney General, thank you. So this was back in 2024. In his ruling, Engoron said that Trump inflated the value of his own Trump Tower residence between $114 million and $207 million, and claiming the property was triple its actual size in square feet. Do you all remember that? Trump Tower is the penthouse. He called it the Trump Tower triplex, whatever. It is 11,000 square feet. Technically, it's around like 10,900 and something. That's close enough. And Donald Trump went through on his financial disclosures with the Trump Organization and said that it was around 30,000 square feet. You are saying that it's way bigger than it actually is. And you're like, well, why would they do that? You're claiming that it's bigger than it actually is in order to receive better terms or better conditions when asking for loans through banks. So the whole idea behind this was that it would help out the Trump Organization. The $52 million that Forbes estimated the valuation of Trump's Manhattan penthouse was helping it to make his total net worth $2.6 billion. Forbes valued the triplex at $64 million in 2017 when they're reporting on the square footage discrepancy, even though Trump claimed at the time his residence was worth $200 million based on the inflated size. So this was all over trying to inflate the value of his assets in order to gain more favorable terms with banks. So this is not the first time that he's lied about the sizes of buildings or the value of renovations, stuff like that. So just simply putting all of that in there. So again, New York Attorney General Letitia James sued Trump and the Trump Organization for allegedly inflating the value of their assets to obtain more favorable business deals and boost Donald Trump's net worth by falsely claiming the ex-president's Trump Tower triplex is 30,000 square feet rather than its actual size of 10,996 square feet. So anyway, you get the point. This is not the first time that Donald Trump has lied about the costs and renovations for buildings, as well as inflating the value of his own, which then he was sued for. So putting all of that context in here, it just shows how much of a liar Donald Trump is. Like, why do you feel the need to lie about the cost of renovations? And then, again, that's such a small thing, but, like, it's like MAGA truly thinks that lying is not wrong, or it's not morally reprehensible. It's like MAGA is pro-lie. I mean, when they put Donald Trump in the White House, it's like they're all for the lying. So if you're like pro-lie, are you not gonna like be happy when Hillary Clinton lies about her emails? Like, why is it only pro-lie when it comes to things that you perceive as benefiting you? So you see how there's like no logic that goes with it. It's just whatever emotionally they want to go with. Anyway. Someone said you just like hearing yourself talk. I love that. It's not my fault that you have the inability to listen when I say something substantive and you can't absorb it because you'd rather just unleash on a random person on the internet thinking that makes you an alpha male. Did I touch a nerve? Anyway, but while we're also, or actually, I'm going to transition topics here because I think I pretty much covered all of that. Now, regarding everything, I'm going to take a small deviation from Epstein, a little bit of a small deviation from talking about all of the specific stuff that Donald Trump has been discovered with Epstein, and I specifically want to discuss voters' reactions. So for those people who do not know, Media Matters for America is it's my opinion, they are a fantastic group, but Media Matters, and here comes the fact, they are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that does a lot of monitoring of political discourse online. And they recently came out with a piece that was discussing how a lot of right-wing leaning shows have been fielding angry calls from voters who feel betrayed by Donald Trump regarding the Epstein files. And so I wanted to show some of those for you. And I definitely encourage, it's my opinion, definitely encourage you to go check out Media Matters because I think they do really, really awesome work. But And again, they are a nonpartisan, nonprofit outlet. So if you want to support them, feel free. But I'll give you a couple examples. Glenn Beck. There was a caller that called into Glenn Beck's show saying, I feel really betrayed and really, really angry. We have a president who tells us to move on from Epstein because it doesn't matter, and yet he talks about the 2020 election fraud. I feel so betrayed and angry. This is not what I voted for. I mean, it is what you voted for, but, you know, just putting that out there. So again, there's Glenn Beck's show. When you actually go to Media Matters article, you can see the video, you can see like the audio, and you can absorb all of that information. So they do some really, really good work. Then going further, here's another example. A caller called into the Larry Elder show and said that this is a sad, sad day in America. It cemented the permanent deep state power, and says when it came time to do the tough thing and the right thing, Trump just couldn't do it. So you have some people that are very, very critical that Donald Trump is trying to cover up for the Epstein files. Here's another one. So another caller called into the Chris Stigall show, said, I'm concerned about being able to trust Donald Trump to keep his word. And now he's saying, just go away, don't pay attention to it. If I can't trust him, then what's the point? So it's important to point out that there are a lot of people who are on the right that are seeing what Donald Trump has been doing with the Epstein files, the fallout, everything, the scandals, every single detail that keeps being revealed. There are many of them that they're now in the place where they're actually opening themselves up to questioning. J. Jack 2000. I actually have a story about Bill Clinton later on. Not that you're going to listen because you want to vilify me, but I actually have a story about Bill Clinton later on the live stream. That is, if you can get through your anger and your prejudice and whatever. Just saying. But another example is another caller called into Chris Stigall's show and said, I believe that Pam Bondi has messed up. Talking about how she had all this stuff and, she was going to release it and then next day, nothing. Well, as a quick little thing, who hired Pam Bondi? Who appointed Pam Bondi? Who does Pam Bondi report to? If you're angry at Pam Bondi, why are you not angry at Trump? It's funny because there are so many people that are like, I want to be angry and I want to show that I care about the mishandling of this. So I'm going to blame Pam Bondi. Well, who is Pam Bondi acting on the behest of? Donald Trump. So like, if you're so desperate to not criticize Donald Trump, yet that's the only course of action that you have if you're truly serious about calling out the corruption regarding the mishandling of the Epstein files. Just saying. And this was the Chris Stigall show. You can see when people call in, it has their name and where they're from. So you can see those things there. And there are so much more of them. This person called into the Eric Erickson's show, saying that this was a dog and pony show. This person called into John Frederick's show, saying, what about justice for these young ladies who were trafficked? What about their justice? Don't they deserve justice? And again, Media Matters compiles all of this information. I'm a liberal. I wasn't commenting to you, Scott. Someone mentioned blah, 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 blah. And I said Bill Clinton. Oh, okay. No worries, J. Jack. Sorry. Sometimes when I will look down at the chat here, sometimes I will misunderstand. So, and that's one of my flaws. Sometimes when I am going through and I briefly see a comment, I will totally misinterpret it because I've not been reading the chat. But there's also a lot of people who specifically are like trying to get my attention and be nasty. And so sometimes I will totally misread that moment. So my bad. Yeah, definitely both Dems and Republicans are on that list. No, I mean, that's fair. And so, yeah. But going through on this, you have a lot of other people that are going through and calling on these right-wing shows like InfoWars. This person's saying that, what is it? An InfoWars caller who said he was at January 6th said Trump saying we need to forget about the Epstein files suggests that he's a part of the whole system. A caller who was on Jimmy Failla, I don't know if I'm saying that right, 3-time Trump voter, says, I believe Trump, he's delivered on everything he promised, but the fact that he's suddenly gone away, it's like he's trying to gaslight us in regards to the Epstein files. And these are like MAGA Republicans that are starting to question their identity. And my question for them is, when are you finally going to wake up from the cult? No, you don't have to become a blue-haired, nose-pierced, Democratic liberal. But like, Donald Trump is a con man. He's a grifter. He's a grifter. He lies. I literally was just talking about how he will lie about even the smallest things, like the cost of renovations for a building. He is a constant liar. And it's so funny because Donald Trump framed himself as an outsider in politics. He's like, all these politicians lie. He is like the culmination of everything that a politician is bad at. He's a culmination of all the bad attributes of a general politician. It doesn't mean that you have to be some blue card liberal that drives like a Subaru. I'm simply just pointing out, have some dignity for yourself and don't support a con man. Anyway. But I wanted to share those here because I just wanted to point out that there are a lot of people who are starting to crack. And while we're on that subject, let me transition to this topic. I have 3 more subjects to cover. We're going to talk about the QAnon Shaman. We're going to get to a story about Bill Clinton. But then we're also going to talk about a very interesting case regarding a guy who was fired for his political beliefs. I say fire in air quotes. We'll get to that. Regarding him identifying as a fascist. We'll get to that too. So everyone, please make sure to send some likes. We're a little bit low in the likes department. Like the stream, share the live, send some likes. I love all of you. My moderators are doing fantastic work in here, maintaining our space. So I appreciate them so much. Cherie, Ellie, Akicha, Kate, Elisa, I love all of you so much. Cantisa, I couldn't do any of this without you all. So this is an interesting story. Are you all familiar with the QAnon Shaman? Yes, that guy, as you can see right here. Low-key, I don't know if he's culturally appropriating stuff from the Native Americans. I don't know what his ethnicity is. He could be Native American himself. I don't know. That all being said, the QAnon Shaman has now decided Okay, am I back? Can you hear me again? Why? Oh, there we go. Okay. So sorry about that, y'all. Whenever I do these live streams, sometimes I will like get a call. I do this from my phone in my car. And I was getting a call and then they were starting to leave a voicemail. And I'm like, ugh. And so then I went back to the stream and then it was like, you couldn't hear me. And I'm like, oh God. So you know what I did? I just like, I scrolled out and then I put myself back in and now you can hear me. Okay, cool. All right. Sorry about that. It happens. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So the QAnon Shaman guy. Yes, this is the guy who was at January 6th. He stormed the Capitol. It's interesting because he stormed the Capitol, was charged for January 6th, and was pardoned by Trump. And he's actually turned on Trump, which is really interesting. Now, I don't know too much about this guy. I don't like do deep dives into his personal character or whatever. But I found this to be a really interesting post from him. And this kind of gets to the core of like right-wing brain rot that happens. So January 6th pardon recipient Jake Chansley, better known in the media as online as the QAnon Shaman, lashed out at President Donald Trump this week in a series of posts calling Trump a piece of shit and a necrophile. Oh God, yeah. Yeah, I'll show you that in a second. He says, F this stupid piece of S, what a fraud, in response to a post of Trump's famous mugshot on Wednesday. And this is the post in reference. I don't know if this is because Trump isn't MAGA enough, or he's sold out because of the Epstein files. I don't know. I truly don't. But I wanted to report on that because I just found it interesting. QAnon Shaman. And I'll just show you some things. This is something that he posted. I don't even know what to think or how, I don't even know how to go about approaching this. He says, listen to me. What if I told everyone on the internet that Trump effed a corpse to get his billions of dollars? Would you believe me? I told you about how he contacted me after January 6th and how he's simping for Israel. When I was in Austin, Texas, I was approached by, and he's going on, this is stuff that he, I guess, said to him. Yeah, I truly don't know. I was looking at this and he posted this saying, I am not playing. Give me what I asked for. Give me what is mine. Last chance. You stole my stuff. Give it back. Last chance to do the right thing. And I'm like, what does this even mean? So before I'm like, oh yeah, he's calling him a piece of crap. I'm like, okay, I agree. But then I'm looking at this and I'm like, what? This is America, mother effers. F you think is gonna happen. And then I laughed out loud at this. He said, believe it or not, I lost everything but my mind. And then he goes, what's Tourette's? What's Tourette's? Then he goes, in prison, stealing another man's property will get you stomped in the yard. And then says, I'm not a monster, I'm just ahead of the curve. What is... Now, this is what... Here's my take. This is what right-wing misinformation and brain rot does to you. This is why I am so critical of the right, their animation, their extremism, because it just leads to nonsense and stuff like this. And I want to live in a world that is loving, empathetic, inclusive, recognizes our diversity as our strength. So yes, great. I'm glad that he called out Trump for a fraud. Cool. But then I'm looking at this and I'm like, dude, this is just crazy. Starting with making sure that world is attainable is calling out corruption where you see it. Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. You call it out where it is. Look, I'm a gay guy, and I'm Southern. So part of my identity is I'm going to be Southern and sassy, and I'm going to call it out as I see it. So I'm just like, yeah. Now, I mean, if he's criticizing Trump and saying all these things for him being in the Epstein files, then credit where credit is due. But then I'm looking at this and I'm like, what does this even mean, dude? So you see what I mean? Yeah, these people are really, really unwell. Including him in things, ironically, is DEI. I don't know if I'm reading that correctly, but I wanted to share all of that because I just found that to be really interesting. Now, I have two more topics I want to talk about. Do we want to talk about this guy, the fascist guy, first? Or do we want to talk briefly about Bill Clinton and his ties to Epstein? Because there was recently a piece that came out in the Wall Street Journal about Bill Clinton as well. I'm going to go over both, but which one do you want me to do first? I'll let you all comment below which one you want me to do. Do you want me to talk about Bill Clinton first in regards to something that recently came out about him and Jeffrey Epstein? Which is so funny, also includes something in there about Trump. So even when I'm going through and I'm researching things about Bill Clinton and his ties to Epstein, it also has Trump in there implicated as well. And I'm like, love that. Or do we want to talk about this guy? This guy who is a self-described fascist that recently went on Jubilee and was arguing with Mehdi Hasan and took pride in the fact of being called a fascist. Which one? Ooh, which one do we want to talk about first? Talk about Bill and you will probably be going on holiday? What do you even mean by that? What? So tell me which one you want to start with first. And got fired. You want me to talk about that one? Comment below which one you want me to talk about first. These people are crazy, Scott. Yeah. Some people are really interesting. Okay, I see 2 votes for fascist, 2 votes for Clinton. The next one that comments, I'll go with that one. I want y'all's feedback. I mean, I could launch an official poll, but, okay. So I see fascist. We'll start with that one, and then we will end with Clinton. We'll end with Clinton, all right? Sorry, that one just came in. All right. Someone says, Cherie, no, you do not disrespect my moderators. No, ma'am. No, ma'am, you do not disrespect my moderators. So we'll start with this self-described fascist first, and then we will end with Bill Clinton, his ties to Epstein, which also low-key implicate Trump as well. Even when I was trying to research regarding Bill Clinton's ties, it still comes up with Trump, which is just funny. Anyway, but what's interesting here is that if you all are familiar with Jubilee is a YouTube channel. I think they have like 10 million subscribers. I don't watch Jubilee. I don't watch their content, their episodes. I only saw the clip that is going around about this guy in regards to what he was talking with Mehdi Hasan in their debate. This guy basically took pride in being called a fascist. And then he went on to social media to be like, yeah, I also lost my job because of my political beliefs. So it's interesting because there's some discrepancies that when I was researching for this story here, I found, and I want to share with you all. So let's start from the very top, all right? On Jubilee, on the latest episode regarding a debate between Mehdi Hasan and 20 other far right-wing Republicans, there was a moment that is going viral where Mehdi Hasan and this guy, whose online handle is known as Pine Sap, yeah, interesting name, where this guy admits to being a proud fascist and laughs maniacally because of it. So this is a piece in Daily Beast. Self-described fascist begs for donations after claiming that viral debate got him fired. So let me start from the top of the article, and then we will go with comparing and contrasting among sources and dive deep into the details. A man who admitted to being a fascist during a debate claims that he's been fired from his job after sharing his, quote, traditional right-wing political views. Pause. I really don't think that expressing that you are a fascist is even a traditional view. Just saying. I could be wrong, but I don't think that makes sense. And now he's asking for handouts. The man who identifies himself as Connor in a fundraiser asking for donations, but uses the pseudonym Pine Sap, was one of 20 far-right conservatives who debated progressive broadcaster Mehdi Hasan as part of Jubilee's Surrounded series. Now pause. If you all were there for my TikTok days, yes, I used to be a live streamer on TikTok. I have now since moved to YouTube. There's a lot of people who do these like debate lives, and I don't like those. I don't think they're helpful. I think they're actually mostly stupid, because most of the time it's not even about the content. It's not even about the actual message. It's more just about fueling emotions to drive an algorithm in order to then, when driving that algorithm, get more money because you're feeding social media. I don't think that's okay. If you have a genuine debate about something, then that's fine. But what's so dangerous is that some of the political debates that even you see on Jubilee, they're debating some things that should not be up for debate. Like genocide should not be up for debate. The factual merits of a case regarding any political figure and their corruption. The facts are not up for debate. Your interpretation about what the facts mean, what they could then indicate or implicate, That's different. Like, what's so dangerous about political discussion today is that the right wing typically tries to make objective information up for debate. Why do they do that? Because it benefits their desired fantasy to build a narrative that they prefer, instead of actually letting the objective facts drive the discussion. Think of it like this. Climate change, objectively, is happening. Climate scientists have discovered over the years that our planet is warming and that extreme weather is leading to our climate changing. That's not a debate, that's a fact. The debate could be, how do you handle climate change? What is the approach that we want to do? How do we want to move forward with mitigating the issues coming with it? That is an actual debate. You can debate. You cannot debate the existence of the fact that these are tiny little plastic hands. Okay? That's just a fact. Now, if you want to debate something, you can say, oh, Scott, your tiny little plastic hands when you do your Trump impression is childish. I could debate saying, no, I think it's quite humorous. I think that it's super, super funny. It adds an element to political comedy that enhances my live streams. That is a debate. The debate over these, the fact that they exist, is not. You see what I mean? There are a lot of people who try to make things up for debate when they shouldn't be. So Jubilee, in my view, is one of those platforms that does these political things in order to drum up stuff which shouldn't be up for debate. Cool? Yeah. So going with that, a man who admitted to being a fascist during a debate claims he was fired from his job after sharing his traditional right-wing political views. He's now asking for handouts. The man who identified himself as Connor is asking for donations but uses the synonym Pine Sap, was one of 20 far-right conservatives who debated progressive broadcaster Mehdi Hasan as part of Jubilee's Surrounded series. Let me get to the next graphic here. Hold on. During the debate, which has been viewed almost 4 million times on YouTube alone, Connor said that he believes in autocracy, which that means like having one singular ruler, and was asked by Mehdi Hasan, if he's a fan of the Nazis. Connor responds, quote, frankly, I don't care being called a Nazi at all. Okay. Connor, who identified himself as a Catholic, also complained that the Nazis persecuted the church a little bit. Asked about the Nazis' persecution of the Jews specifically, Connor added, I certainly don't support anyone's human dignity being assaulted. Okay, I agree with you there, but like, you calling yourself a fascist and then saying that you don't support anyone's human dignity being assaulted, those are two contradictory things. And then Hassan says, we may have to rename the show because you're a little more than a far right-wing Republican. And he goes, hey, what can I say? And then when Hassan suggested that, Connor, you could describe yourself as a fascist, Connor then goes, haha, yeah, I am, before laughing maniacally and receiving applause from others in the audience. And that was the face that he made when laughing maniacally after being called a fascist. Yeah. Interesting. And Connor now claims that he was fired. So, skipping ahead, after all of that happened, Connor is now claiming that he was fired for his views and has launched a fundraising page on Give, Send, Go, a Christian crowdfunding site, which has faced criticism for hosting extremist causes. And he, on his fundraiser, it says, quote, I'm raising money as an emergency fund and for other expenses while I look for a new job, the page reads, without providing any details of the role or company he was supposedly fired from. Quote, unfortunately, voicing fully legal traditional right-wing political views results in real consequences. This is cancel culture and political discrimination on full display. Let me also just stop right here and just say something real quick. And y'all, please make sure to send some likes. It's funny that these people are always about, oh, free speech, free speech, free speech. Free speech is a liberal value. Like, the reason why conservatives can say crazy stuff is because of the liberal value of free speech within our democratic republic. Like, free speech as a thing is a liberal value. Now, free speech isn't without consequences. You have the freedom to be able to say stuff, but if it causes negative ramification to someone else's rights, then there will be consequences. If you yell fire in a crowded theater and it leads to people being trampled, you have the freedom to act upon saying fire. But other people lose their freedoms from being injured or maybe dying from causing a riot leading to a stampede, leading to injuries. So when people say freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences, that's what that means. If you say something that is homophobic, racist, sexist, prejudiced against someone in your workplace, you sexually harass them, you can yell, oh, freedom, freedom, freedom of speech. Yes, you have the freedom to do that, the freedom to say that. But there are negative ramifications that come along with your freedom because they infringe upon someone else's freedom. If people come in here and say, oh, they call me names and be homophobic, okay, you have the freedom of speech to say that, but then my moderators are going to go in here and mute you because you're being hostile and creating a live stream that is not inclusive, loving, empathetic, and fostering good public discussion and discourse. So you can yell, oh, freedom of speech, all that you want, but that doesn't mean that you're free from the consequences. If you go on something like Jubilee and say that you're a fascist, you talk about traditional right-wing values and you are basically green-lighting persecution of a certain group, and your employer sees that and decides to terminate you for that, that's them acting upon the consequences of your free speech because they don't want someone like you to be representing their company or group, corporation, whatever it is. So you say, oh, fully voicing my legal, traditional, right-wing political views. Yes, you can say it, but it doesn't free you from the consequences that come along with you acting upon that. Does that make sense? Cool. That all being said, the page has already blown past its original $15,000 goal, with contributions hitting now $20,000 as of Tuesday morning. Good grief. There's someone that donated saying that we need a white Christian nation. Oh my God. Connor discussed getting fired without naming the company or his job title during an appearance on the Rift Report podcast on Monday. I am not familiar with that. What's really interesting is when I was doing some digging on this story, this is what I found. The fascist dude that got fired from his job after acting like, this person said DOUCHE, when he debated Mehdi Hassan, started a fundraiser to help him pay his bills while he searches for a new job. But as it turns out, he lost his job back in January. And I saw that and I'm like, wait. So I go through and I'm like, all right, someone's claiming that. This person said, for those of you asking for proof, voila, his own tweet. And it says in his tweet, if you all could pray for me, I would greatly appreciate it. I got laid off from my job. Got laid off. Laid off is different than fired. That was January 22nd of this year. Who knows? Maybe he was one of those people that was cut by Elon. Maybe he was one of those people that was doged. And it says, I'm sorry. This person says, I'm sorry, I'll be praying for you. Then he goes, thank you so much. So he is now claiming that he's been fired from his job when his own post says that he got laid off in January. Now, okay, you may have been laid off in January. Did you end up getting another job in the meantime? That is possible. Because he has not disclosed what job it was, what the role was, where it was at, and that is personal information that he has the right not to disclose, it's kind of hard for us to know the actual truth there. That all being said, just to further go through, we I was going through and like, okay, is this Feels Guy the actual person? Yes. Yes, because Feels Guy reposted things featuring himself, reposting other people that were talking about, oh, he'll be on the Rift Report, or he'll be on this show, yada yada yada, referring to this guy. Yeah. So it's all the same person. And this has honestly raised eyebrows on social media, with one person saying, so it had nothing to do with him being a self-claimed fascist, and your GoFundMe is a scam. Got it. And it's funny because, like, he responded directly to this post here. And I was like, oh wait, did he respond? And this person was like, came to look for this comment. Yeah, so he didn't actually end up responding to that. So what we do know, according to him, it's kind of like a he said, she said situation. Not quite sure. He says that he was fired for his political beliefs because he self-identified as a fascist. He launched a GoFundMe over whatever, click, send, go, Christian stuff, whatever. People have donated to him. But he also, on his own posts, have said, oh, thank you, Ross. I appreciate you. Oh, someone just subscribed. Ah! Oh, I love it. If you really support me and my show and really appreciate what I do, then please subscribe. Or subscribe and then also become a member. I love all of you so much. But like, it's really interesting just seeing that, because he says, if you could pray for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. I got laid off from my job. That was back in January. He could have got another job and then was just fired. But again, we don't have any details. We don't have any details as to where it was, or what his role was, or what that was like. You just have to take his word for it. And his own posts say that he got laid off in January. Laid off is different than fired. So it's interesting pointing all of that out. Now, other commenters had some other things to say. So he's scamming people for money. Why am I not surprised? Thanks for raising awareness. I just gave him $100. I don't know if that's supposed to be an own. Every MAGA is a moron or a grifter. What is it? That's literal fraud. He should be prosecuted. He learned from his own orange, not going to say that word, SHITLER. That explains why he's been so keen to out himself as a NAZI. It felt very forced and weird. So, a right-wing incel fascist turned out to be a lying con artist waiting for the episode to drop to debut his grift. Let me show you my big surprised face. This person, I'm not going to read this out loud, but I liked it because I was like, oh my god, this is just too much. He should try pay Gorn, I'm going to say. I'm just going to say that. The obvious red flag was that he didn't mention his employer who fired him for his appearance. Though, also, I want to point out that, like, that's his right to not share those information or those details, because the employer probably doesn't want that to be shared either. Let's see. But perfect MAGA representative, lying white supremacist. This person said, they're all anti-socialism till they need to use that crowdfunding. That's so true, though. Like, crowdfunding like that is a very socialist thing to do. You're banding together in order to accomplish a goal. So there was this person, oh god, the green screen's bad, that just has like the surprised face. Let's see, grifters everywhere, he could just work elsewhere instead. Nah, too difficult. And then I looked at this, and this was Feels Guy, the Connor dude, Pine Sap, says, we will be remembering Pope Francis, blah, 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 blah. I apologize, gang, but the stream is rescheduled due to, it wasn't a good day at work today. And he said that back in May. So we don't know if he ended up getting another job. or if he was just referring to work as his content creation. So there's a lot of things that we still don't know. Fired for being a dumbass, rewarded for being a dumbass. I was like, wow, okay. He took the MAGA idiots to the cleaners. But he's a Christian. Source is, trust me, bro. All I see is a man with nothing to lose. A very dangerous man indeed. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. I mean, to be frank, to be fair, the people who are donating to him are obviously far-right conservatives. So, like, why are y'all upset they are getting scammed? Haha, this, isn't this what you want? And that's a very good point. So, if he did end up getting fired or didn't end up getting fired, he's taking money from fellow far-right-wing conservatives. So, like, he might be the one that's scamming them, you know? So, it's like, I'm just pointing it out there because this is just politically interesting. Fascists scamming their own side. Turns out he isn't as dumb as everyone thought. If you had said to the American public back in like 2007 that this is where we would be, you would have people self-identifying as a fascist, possibly, in order to then put out like a GoFundMe knockoff in order to raise money so that you don't actually have to work. People would be like, that's crazy. Hey, ho, ho, Trump got to go. Yeah, fair. So it's politically an interesting case here. So, he scammed the alt-right. Nice. Can I do this being a fake Nazi and all the racists send me money? Imagine begging for handouts and not pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. Yeah, and these are the same people that are like, oh yeah, go out and get a job. It's like, you know, oh, I was fired for my political beliefs. Yet it seems like your employment being terminated was kind of an up in the air question, and there's evidence going around that like that may not be true. Who knows? So I don't know. You can speculate. You can do all those things. That is what we know. There are certain facts that we're not privy to. So just sharing all of that. I'm gonna have to go here soon, but I want to debut one more story before I end the live stream today. So what is so interesting is when I was looking and researching this morning for other political news, I saw this. When I open Mediaite, which is a source I often use, Mediaite does a lot of like quick on the ground reporting. And I saw this. Bill Clinton praised Jeffrey Epstein's childlike curiosity in birthday letter, according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, what is going to be so funny is if people come in here and immediately assume that I'm going to be some sort of right-winger because I'm pointing out Bill Clinton's connections to Jeffrey Epstein, when I've been endlessly talking about Donald Trump's connections to Jeffrey Epstein. I will literally laugh. Like, it's funny because I call it corruption. I call out stuff wherever I see it. If, like, there are people that are like, oh, well, why aren't you angry about Bill Clinton? If there's evidence showing that he's done wrong, great, lock him up. I don't care. Just because he's a former president, just because he is a part of a political party I tend to vote for, I don't care. You all know Senator Bob Menendez? He was a senator from New Jersey. It was literally discovered through the Southern District of New York that he was taking bribes from the government of, like, Qatar and Egypt and all of those places. It's like, great, lock him up. If there's evidence showing that he's corrupt, then hold him accountable. Like, you're not going to see, damn, your hair looks so edible. Edible? 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 Okay, I don't know how to go about that comment. Thank you? You eat my hair. Yeah, no ma'am. No ma'am. Okay. Anyway, so I saw this and I wanted to also share this. So Bill Clinton praised Jeffrey Epstein's childlike curiosity in birthday letter. So former President Bill Clinton handwrote a personal note to Jeffrey Epstein for the disgraced financier's 50th birthday album, praising his, quote, childlike curiosity. Now pause. That isn't implicating or, you know, necessarily like negative in itself, but knowing that he's saying that he's praising Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex trafficker, specifically for underage kids, when you are praising that person for a childlike curiosity, That it's different. It's different if you were to like have an 80-year-old grandmother who is learning to play mahjong or bridge or Uno for the first time, or loves to learn just games, card games in general. If you were to say, yeah, Aunt Marla has this really, really interesting childlike curiosity, and we really, really love and appreciate her for that. It's a completely different context than someone like Bill Clinton saying that about Jeffrey Epstein. You see what I mean? So, it also, that context matters there. The note appeared in a leather-bound birthday book compiled in 2003 by Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's long associate who remains in prison for her role in sex trafficking activities. Now, it's also interesting for people who are like, yeah, this shows that Bill Clinton's so implicated. Donald Trump is out of the clear. Nope. Because the book also includes entries from Donald Trump, billionaire Leon Black, and fashion designer Vera Wang, also other people. So, like, because when I saw this story, I'm like, wow, look, this shows Bill Clinton being in line with Jeffrey Epstein and the corruption there. And it's like, I'm going through and I'm like, oh, I see Trump's name again. It's like a pinball. It's like it's bouncing around, always coming back to you, you know? It's just, yeah. Trump and Epstein sitting in a tree. Yeah, it was just funny that I saw that. This is the piece in the Wall Street Journal that was also talking about this. And this is the actual specific section that was written in the birthday letter. It said, "It's reassuring, isn't it, to have lasted as long across the years of learning and knowing, adventures and then it has illegible word, and also to have your childlike curiosity, the drive to make a difference, and a solace of friends." Someone said, so Trump is completely innocent. Yeah, no. Trump is so fucking guilty. He's so guilty. Like, lock them all up. Put him in a cell with Bill Clinton. Do it. Go for it. Go for it. I would watch that show. Anyway, it was interesting because a Clinton spokesperson declined to comment on the letter for itself, asserting that the former president's ties with Epstein ended over a decade before Epstein's 2019 arrest. That's the same kind of defense that Trump's team is trying to put out there. See, this is the thing. When Democrats start acting like Republicans, it gives them credibility for the Republicans to criticize them. We are better than that. Don't do that. The bombshell comes just days after the Journal reported that Trump also contributed a risque letter to the album, allegedly including the drawing of a naked woman with the message written as the pubic hair. Yes, that. Anyway, so wanted to also report all of that. This has been a long live stream. I appreciate every single one of you. Please make sure to send some likes. Please make sure to like the stream. If this is your first time here and you enjoyed the stream, please smash that subscribe button. I also posted a video yesterday about Jerome Powell and Donald Trump. I need to get to work. I appreciate every single one of you. Seriously, I love all of you, even if you don't like me. So I cannot do any of this without you all. Thanks to people. So I felt bad because a couple days ago someone sent a super chat and I didn't get to it. So if you happen to be that person that sent that, I am sorry that I didn't see that. I love and appreciate every single one of you. What about the wire transfers Ron Wyden was talking about? Yeah, that's something I haven't actually really talked about yet. But just as a quick little thing right before we end the live, Ron Wyden, who is a Democratic senator from Oregon, specifically was looking into the bank transfers of Epstein, and all of those bank transfers were for accounts that were actually housed in Russia. And so a lot of those wire transfers, I mean, it was like $1 billion or so going through. So I would have to double check, and I'd have to go through and research more on that story. But that's what I can tell you about that, is that there were some documents coming out just about raising questions around those wire transfers regarding Epstein, the accounts being in Russia and stuff like that. Yes, we have a Discord. Please definitely check that out. Diddy J Trump. Oh my God, that's so funny. That's so funny. Well, actually, while we're on that subject, Donald Trump literally fired the prosecutor that went after Diddy. Her name is Maureen Comey. Maureen Comey. So it's like, it's so funny that Donald Trump gets rid of the highest level prosecutor in the country regarding sex trafficking right in the middle of this Epstein case. So anyway, I love all of you. Shout out to my amazing moderators. Elisa, Cherie, Kate, Akicha. I love all of you. Ellie, I cannot do this without you, Ellie. Joanna Tech, Cantisa, Jenny, y'all are all incredible. I seriously couldn't do this. Joanna Tech, thank you, Ross, for sending one membership to someone. I think that was to Ellie. I appreciate you all. You're incredible. I need to get to work. Yep, related to James Comey. Not like Coney, like Coney Island. Anyway, awesome live stream. Oh, thank you, Bunny. That's a cute little name. Bunny! Anyway, Espama, you're awesome. Thanks for being in here. You are really lovely. Love to everyone. Aw, thank you. I appreciate all of you. Just remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are valid, you are strong, and you are fierce. Aw, Jess Camaro. Thanks for sending love. And don't let anyone or anything ever dim your shine. Oh, Ginger Monster, love you. I love you all so much. Bye.